Yo, what's good, guys? We are back on MLB The Show 23 for the final tip video of the year. I've got 25 things that I think people need to know going into next year's show and that you can apply to the very end of this year's show to get you better at the game, whether you might be a beginner or a returning player, or even some super advanced players might not know. It's not game breaking material, but it is tips that can help you to improve at the game and be a better player. So let's get into it. Number one, no better spot to start than your settings. In general, you want to be on zone hitting. You can use any PCI that you feel comfortable with. In general, these are my settings. I would get your vibration off because in late game situations, your controller can be vibrating. In general, I would encourage you guys to learn pinpoint pitching, but I do acknowledge that pure analog is similar to it, not only in results but also execution. Pure analog is like half of what you're doing in pinpoint, so if you want to start with pure analog, learn that, and then maybe learn pinpoint down the road, you can do that. I prefer pitch trail personally. Throwing interface, you should be on button accuracy. You don't want to leave it up to the game whether or not your throw is going to be accurate or not. And ideally, you'd want throw canceling on for rundowns and opportunities like that. And then, other than that, you got your cameras. So, I am a huge proponent of using regular strike zone. If you want to be the best at the game, I think regular strike zone gives you the best way to do that. Really, the only downside I think I see people is at lower ranks. If you use regular strike zone, a lot of times you chase breaking balls below the zone, where a lot of that is just kind of learning your batter's eye and tuning that batter's eye to not chase it, stuff like that. But strike zone's going to give you the best chance to see the seams of the baseball, learn how it breaks. It also gives you the biggest, most magnified picture of the baseball while it's coming in, so it gives you a better idea of where you need to be swinging at. You can also pitch from strike zone. I'm a big fan of this because you're almost doubling the amount of pitches you see, so it's helping you become a better hitter. And as a pitcher, it's helpful to know how that ball looks coming into your opponent. Whereas if you are on a pitcher's view when you're pitching, you don't really have that idea. In view play offense, I prefer high. I think it helps your base running, but we will get to that in the future. And then that is more or less it for settings. Number two, learn how to pitch. It sounds very, kind of not helpful when I say it like that. But mainly what I mean is learn what pitches are good in what locations. You don't want to be throwing changeups up in the zone unless you're throwing it with purpose and you have a reason for doing that. Ideally, you would want to know that fastballs are up in the zone. Most breaking balls are down in the zone. Most breaking balls that break away from people need to be on the opposite side of the zone from them. Stuff like that in general. I have a chart. I will link it down below, but it is very beginner oriented. It's not really going to help you if you are on those higher difficulties. Number three, learn how to base run. You would be shocked how many people are somewhat high ranked or, more towards the top ranks and don't base run very effectively at all. If you're just base running with the bumpers, you're doing it wrong. You want to be selecting the base runner you want with the analog and telling him what base to go to. In general, the way I do it is as soon as I make contact with the ball, I kind of know where it's going. I tell that lead runner where to go. I'll tell any trail runners where they need to go after that. And then the guy that just hit the ball, the batter, you have all day to tell him where to go, right? Because he has to run to first base anyway. He should be the last priority. If you get good with running with the stick, you'll almost never have to use the bumpers. In general, I only use the bumpers to tag. You want to be able to tell where you can get your base runner to safely over and over. Hopefully that does not demonetize the video. So, number four, I have learn timing windows. I do not necessarily mean that certain players have push hitter tendency, certain players have pull hitter tendency. What I mean by timing windows is you need to know if I throw a four seam down the middle and then I throw that same four seam outside, you have to swing later on the outside four seam to have the same timing. Whereas if I throw it inside, you have to swing earlier than one down the middle. A lot of people don't know that. They didn't play actual baseball, or if they did, they just don't think about it in a game format. If a pitch is inside, you got to swing faster than if it's outside or down the middle. So basically, it kind of scales. In general, I would say you need to hit inside out, prioritize hitting stuff closer to you, and then you have more time to get outside. So it's almost like reading a book. You want to do, well, I guess it would be with a right handed batter, but with a left handed, not necessarily. But basically, inside out. You want to read pitches inside out, is what I'm saying. 5, learn the meta pitches. Learn what pitches are good to use, right? If you're pitching, we've all seen guys that just throw high and in outlier fastballs. And I'm sure a lot of us have just got bent over by that. And that's all they throw for the whole game. And you just don't really manage to have success against that pitcher. It's because you're not respecting the meta pitches. You have to know where people want to put certain pitches, and it's going to make you a better hitter. It's going to make them much more predictable, and you will have more success overall. The same half of that goes with pitching. You need to learn where to put your pitches, where the best spot for these pitches are. A cutter has a million different good spots you can put it. A sinker has a lot of good spots you can put it. An outlier fastball does, a slider. You just got to learn where to put those pitches, and I can't necessarily get into all of that in this video. 7, learn to limit base runners. If you give up a base runner that has 99 speed, that should not just be a double every time. You should not just let them steal second base every single time. In general, you need to learn how to limit your base runners. When you have a runner on, a lot of times with the pitcher, you want to hold the ball a little bit longer. You don't want to pitch instantly. Because a lot of times what guys will do is they'll take a super late leadoff and kind of predict when you're going to start pitching. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. You want to learn how to slide step to help avoid people stealing on you. The slide step gets the ball there a little faster. It's the left trigger, and then you do your pitch as you usually would. And that gives you your slide step. But you don't want to be doing it when the guy on first base has 40 speed, because not only does slide stepping hurt you slightly, it also is kind of a scumbag thing to do if you don't think the runner's going to steal. There's a couple other things. You need to know how to pick off. It's just left trigger and the base that they're at. You need to learn how to pitch out, but you don't really want to ever pitch out unless you are 100% sure the base runner is going to go. And then you got to learn how to preload your throws as a catcher. I see a lot of people, they don't start throwing the ball until the ball's already in the catcher's mitt. You can preload that throw. From the time the ball is out of your pitcher's hand to when it's like halfway to the plate, you can just tap the base you want to throw to, and the frame that it's possible, your catcher will come up with the throwing meter. So it's important to preload those throws if you want to have the best chance of getting the base runner out. Number 8, this one might seem obvious to some people, but a lot of people it's not. 8, if everything is equal, use a switch hitter. If you are between starting 2 guys on your team and they have very similar stats, use the switch hitter. They're almost always going to hit better for you. They always have the handedness advantage. Unless you hit really well, like lefty-lefty with the player, or really well righty-righty, a lot of times you're better off using a switch hitter. Number 9, watch better players. Doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody that is incredibly good at the game. You will pick up on little nuances, little things that they do. You will also, the game will slow down a lot for you. You'll be like, wow, they're on Legend and they have that much time to hit, and it's going to put a new perspective on your game. You're going to kind of calm down. I think a lot of times in the show, we are prisoners of the moment, and when we're at bat, we're very antsy. Everything seems very quick. It seems to almost overwhelm you, and everything happens really quick, whereas if you just take some perspective and just slow the game down, a lot of the game slows down for you. Number 10, play a lot. Sounds kind of surface level information. But what I mean by that is there's a lot of first and second year players that are super concerned about their rank record. If you are just getting into the game for the first time, relax. The more you play, the better you're going to get at the game, the better your record's going to look next year. Do not sweat it this year if it's like your first or second year, or if it's your first year taking the game competitively. Play as much as possible. It's going to help you in the long run. Me personally, I don't play a ton past Legend. A lot of guys love asking me, could you beat Little Man? Could you beat Pitching Rebel? What do you think? And my answer is always, those guys have a lot more reps on Legend than what I do. I don't play enough, and I play a ton. So if I don't play enough, you definitely don't play enough. And the more you play, the more it's going to help you, the better you're going to get at the game. 11, use a good stadium for you. What I mean by that is if you are one of these defense oriented, pitcher heavy guys where you pitch super well and you always hold your opponents to like 3 or less runs, why are you at Shield Woods? It's not helping your play style. If you pitch super great and you bat below 200 with every hitter in your lineup, and most of your runs that you score look like bloop singles where you steal second base and then you hit like a scraper right by an infielder, and that guy scores on that single. Why are you playing at Shield Woods where your opponent can barely touch the ball and it'll leave? You're just hurting yourself. You should be at like Blue River or a stadium or Bayfront, a stadium like that where it's more pitcher oriented, the elevation's low, and you're not going to get flukes for home runs as much. Whereas if you're somebody like me or you're a top percentile hitter, or you think when you load into a game there's a great chance that you're going to be a better hitter than your opponent, you want to be at Shield Woods. You want to be at one of these super offensive oriented stadiums because, in my mind, I'm going to make better contact more often than you are, and that's going to win me the game. I don't really care how many runs I give up. So, use a stadium that suits you. Do not be at Shield Woods if you have a career batting average of under 200. There's no point. Just because you hit that one fluke home run, your opponent's going to hit 4, and it's not going to matter. 12, learn how to structure your lineup. We've been sitting in DD for a minute just for this reason. Learn how to structure a lineup. If you've played baseball, you kind of more or less know. If you haven't, you need to learn. First spot, usually somebody fast that you feel confident about getting on base with. Can be a good base stealer. Does not have to be a good base stealer. Base stealing is overrated in this game. Second spot, I like a guy that is at least kind of fast and is a switch hitter. The philosophy with that in my mind is if I get this first guy on a single or a walk, I do not want to then hit into a double play. So I like having a switch hitter so I have the handedness advantage and I'm not at the pitcher's mercy as much as I would be with like a same-handed batter. In general, your third hitter is going to be your best hitter in your lineup. Your fourth will probably be more or less your second best. And then 5 through 9 is kind of up to you. I would probably structure them via like their batting average or their slugging or their OPS. Something like that would be how I would, more or less structure the rest of the lineup. It's a little harder for me because I have so many switches in this team. But in general, you don't want to bat same-handed batters back to back because then your opponent, if they have Aaron Loop, is going to see that you have 2 or 3 lefties in a row, and he's going to bring in Aaron Loop, and it's going to be a lot harder for you that inning. So you want to stagger your handednesses, which is why a switch hitter is such a valuable commodity in the game. Number 13, packs are not worth it. If we are at the end of the year, yeah, you can go crazy, right? But at the start of the year, do not buy packs. They give you enough free packs. If you just take your profit that you get from free packs, I promise you, you're guaranteed to make money, right? If you buy packs, you're not guaranteed to make money. If you just take your free ones, you are. In the start of the year, like first few days on the game, it can be profitable. It's probably not going to be. You see these videos of guys like Magunsky spending $1,000 day one trying to pull trout, and he gets like 5 diamonds, and none of them are high diamonds. It's not worth it. I promise you. Take your free packs. Out of free packs this year, I think I got like 2 DeGroms and like 2 Trouts when they were still a ton. I think I got Aaron Judge. Like, my luck was very good, but at the same time, that was all from free packs. That was all from packs from doing like Team Affinity and stuff like that. Take your free packs. It will add up. I can also promise you that chase packs are almost never worth it. And those choice packs where you have the tiers are almost never worth it. If you hit on one of those, you should pretty much stop for the rest of the year because you're pretty much guaranteed to go back to 0 eventually. Number 14, learn the captain glitch. There's no point in not doing it. I don't think it's particularly scummy. And chances are at this point of the year, most of your opponents are going to be doing it also. So go learn that. I will link that down below. But I'm not going to get into it because then this video is going to be a lot longer than it needs to be. 15, practice on the higher difficulty. Practicing and warming up are 2 different things. We'll get more into that when we get to the warm-up part. But if you are practicing to get better at the game, play on a higher difficulty than you're used to. If you are below 700 in ranked, you should be practicing on Hall of Fame. If you are below 900 in ranked, you should be practicing on Legend. Between 700 and 900, I should say, not necessarily, um, you know, just below 900. Just forget what I said. Forget what I said. Bad point. Bad point. If you are a legend player who's looking to get more comfortable and better on legend, you should be playing on legend with your sliders turned up. You don't have to max them initially, but if you turn them up a little bit, it's going to make you better. It's how almost every disgusting player at the game practices is on legend with the sliders cranked. Number 16, have a routine at the plate. It's very similar to real life in that regard. You want to be doing something consistently with your PCI pre pitch, not while the pitcher is delivering the ball. Then you need to be kind of back to where you want to be, where you feel comfortable at. But in general, you want to have a routine. Some people do small circles, some people do big circles, some people flick. Me personally, I like just put my PCI in the up and away corner because I think that's one of the harder pitches in the game to hit on higher difficulties. So I like to make sure I can get there, feel comfortable getting there because I feel good about everything else. Have a routine. Have something you like doing pre-pitch. 17. When you're hitting, you need to be guessing where the pitch is going to be, not necessarily following the pitch. A lot of people follow the pitch. If you are very good at tracking, that's awesome, but it's a very small percentage of the people that play this game. Most people hit how I hit, where they have seen so many pitches in the game to where when it comes out the pitcher's hand, I know what pitch it is and more or less where it's going. And either I'm good enough and I know exactly where that pitch is going, or I'm not. So you're kind of hitting where the ball is going to be instead of where it is when you're swinging. 18, learn your difficulty. If you are an all-star player, you should acknowledge the fact that if you have good timing, you're probably not going to strike out. If you are an all-star player, you should almost never be striking out in like a 2-strike count looking. If a ball is remotely close to the zone, you should be trying to foul it, if not hit it. Just because on that difficulty, it is so insanely easy to foul off balls. I'm sure you guys have experienced that. And you should play to the strengths of your difficulty. If you don't have the best eye, I'm not saying swing at everything because it's foulable. But if a ball is close to the strike zone, you should be able to foul it. If you cannot tell if it is a ball or strike, you should be able to foul it. If you're on higher difficulties, learn what is strong on those difficulties. Hall of Fame and Legend, out and away, outlier fastballs, I will die on this hill, are the hardest pitch to hit with good timing in the game. Learn what is strong on those difficulties, go to it a lot. On those higher difficulties, John Donaldson, outside slider, barely nipping the zone. Insanely hard pitch to go get. So learn what's good on your difficulty. 19, be a good sport. If you beat somebody you feel like you were worse than, you don't have to message them and be like, you suck, you lost to me. If you beat somebody you know you're better than, you don't need to message them and be like, you suck, you lost to me. Like, in general, just be a good sport about it. It's a video game. Not a lot of people care. If you beat somebody that's better at you, you never know what that person was doing. You never know if it's just the worst game of their life or if they're watching Netflix on the side. Really, you're just making a fool out of yourself a lot more times than you're showing the man or making that guy reevaluate his life. Usually, just be a cool person and don't be toxic and don't be weird. And, you will receive better energy for the most part. 20, hit the cut. There's no reason you should be getting a reach up animation in center field and trying to throw it to home on like a 0 hop or a 1 hopper. It's not going to happen. Nobody in the game has an arm strength that can possibly do that. You'd have to have like a 125 arm. Hit your cut, man. It is the left bumper on Xbox. I think it's L1 on PlayStation. Hit your cut and then hit the base you want to throw to. If you've ever played at Polo Grounds and you've played somebody that does not know how to hit a cut, man, it is hilarious. They kind of fixed it this year to where it does it for you, which is unfortunate in my opinion. But it is what it is. Learn how to hit the cut. 21, use players you like. Just because I recommend you a player does not mean you're going to be good with the player. Does not mean you have to use the player. I can't tell you how many people I've seen all year with, where's he at? This card and my center fielder and my left fielder that hit like below 200 with them. If you hit below 200 with everybody in your lineup, that's one thing. But if those guys are outliers and they are hitting significantly worse than the rest of your lineup, you don't have to use those cards. Yes, I think they're the best in the game, but that does not mean they will be the best in the game to you. MLB is such a subjective game. People feel weird ways about weird swings, and some stuff works better for other people. Whereas, you know, like a lot of people didn't like Jackson Chourio this year. I love that card. I think his swing is awesome. But a lot of people said he was unusable because of his swing. It's just stuff like that. You kind of have to try a card firsthand. Yes, my opinion matters. Doesn't matter, but it counts for more than what a lot of people's would. But in general, I'm not right about the card when it comes to your eyes. You kind of have to use that card. You have to get some reps with them. Now, if you go get Milestone Trout and you're under parallel one and you're batting like 100 with the card, and you're like, oh, your recommendation sucks. I suck with this card. I'm not going to hear that, right? You should at least get a card to like P2 before you cast judgment on it. Get a good sample size with the card. Don't just use him for one game. He went over 4 and you sell him because that could be anybody. So use a good sample size with cards when you're picking them and don't just, glaze me and use all the cards that I use because they're the best for me. They might not be the best for you. 22. Always have 2 pitchers warm, usually a righty and a lefty. It's a great habit to have from the very start of the game to have a righty and a lefty warmed up because you never know when your opponent's going to turn up and just get multiple runs off your pitcher in the same inning. In general, I would do a righty and a lefty, but certain situations call for, different things. Also, there is a glitch in the game where you can just hit warm up on a pitcher and then put him in the game right after that. And he will come in on full stamina, but I don't know if they'll fix that. So it's a good habit to be in to warm up your pitchers from pitch 1. It doesn't matter how long they're warming up. They used to get injured. They don't do it anymore. They can warm up from inning 1 through the end of inning 9, and they'll be fine. Number 23, use John and Randy. I don't know how many times I have to say this. A lot of people think it's scummy to use them. A lot of people think it's easy mode. And yeah, it is. I'll be honest. A lot of times I coach people and I tell them, yeah, you can pitch anybody other than John and Randy because that's not going to tell me a lot about how you pitch because they are such dominant and overwhelming pitchers that it kind of is easy mode. But you should still have them in your rotation because you never know when you're going to run into them. You might care if you use John and Randy, but I'll tell you who doesn't, your opponent. They do not care if you don't think you want to use them or if you think it's scummy to use them. They're going to use them anyway. You should have them in your rotation for at the minimum to bring them in against those people. I can't tell you how many times this year I have faced somebody pitching Randy and I put up like 4 runs in 3 innings on Randy and their go-to is John Donaldson. It happens all the time. Those guys are, a special level of dedicated, and you need to have those guys in your rotation for when stuff like that happens. Number 24, I have Stay Even Killed. This game has some RNG in it. It is not Madden, and it is not 2K level or FIFA levels of RNG, but it still has some RNG, and you can still get screwed over. So Stay Even Killed when you're doing good. If you just hit a 3-run home run, don't celebrate too much. Stay focused. Stay on the gas pedal. You need more runs than that. Because I've seen people hit 3-run home runs and get super hype in the second inning, and then they don't score again for the rest of the game, and they lose 4-3. It's not a good feeling, so try to stay focused, stay on the gas pedal when you're doing good, and then when you're doing bad, don't get too down in the dumps. If you just start eating yourself up after every single pitch, you're not going to do well. Stay even killed. Try not to rage too hard. Try not to get too down in the dumps. And then number 25, my final tip is, again, learn the difference between practicing and warming up. If you're warming up, that means you're preparing yourself to play online. If you're practicing, you are just going to get better at the game. You have no aspirations of playing online. If you are going to play online after you practice, then it's a warm-up. You're doing it to get ready to play online. You should be doing that on the difficulty you think you're going to play on. It's a little different if your rating's like 680 and there's an equal chance of you ending up on Hall of Fame or All-Star, then I would probably say warm up on Hall of Fame. But if you are a committed All-Star player between like the ranks of 400 and like 550, you should be warming up on All-Star. If you are a Hall of Fame player, you should be warming up on Hall of Fame. If you're a Legend player, you should be warming up on Legend. And for the most part, that's how warm-ups go. Practicing and warming up is 2 different things. If you're practicing, you're not playing online after. But yeah, guys, that is all my 25 tips. Hopefully, some of these are helpful to you guys. I just wanted to put this out there for the rest of the year for people to look back on to prepare for next year. If you do a lot of this stuff, if you shore up some of the holes in your game going into next year, you're going to be a better player next year. And you're going to have more fun on the game, and you're going to build a better team next year. So it's important to put those reps in now, even if the game is dead. Let me know what you guys thought. If you did enjoy the content, I would urge you to like and subscribe. And I will be fielding feedback on the green screen. I'm not sure if I want to use it for gameplay yet, but for videos like this, it is absolutely perfect in my opinion. So let me know. Till next time. Peace.